Okay, I'm back. Before I go on to episode 8, I just realized that I forgot to talk about the Poseidon and Sally flashbacks with little Percy. And I just wanted to say that those were like the highlight of episode 7 for me. For all the problems that I had with the underworld and the small problems I had with Krusty's waterbed palace, I would say that a good amount of those problems were made up for with how good the flashbacks were and how it really fleshed out Sally and Poseidon's relationship and why Sally's making the choices she is. Moving on to the finale, which was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. Now, am I going to have little tiny problems here and there? Yeah, I always am. But this was by far way better. And this episode, it didn't feel like the humor was missing, not because there was like a ton of humor, but because the final episode doesn't feel like it should be super funny. It is the episode where everything's coming together, all of these things are being found out, and it made sense to keep this one more serious. I wish that some of the other episodes had been funnier, but this one, I think that this was the right amount of humor to seriousness, and, it being way more serious. Now, moving on to the actual episode. The Ares fight was really well done. It was pretty accurate, and I liked how Percy beating Ares with the force of the ocean, or this, I think it's the ocean at Montauk Beach, was like super powerful and cool, but it wasn't like top level, Like, we are giving Percy the space to grow from here on out. He didn't just immediately go, super hardcore. He hasn't had his powers long enough for him to be able to do something, really crazy. And I like that they understand that, but he was still able to use his powers in a cool way. It was a good balance between not being able to do anything and being able to do too much too quickly. I also just thought it was really well filmed, and I like that they moved Annabeth giving Percy her necklace until later, because it would have felt awkward to add it in here. It always kind of felt mildly awkward in the books anyway. Ares just stands there and lets them talk and waits to fight them. This worked out well. Them being, I don't think they were at Montauk anyway. Them being at Santa Monica instead of Montauk for the fight worked out fine. And so then Percy gets to be at his family's cabin. So that works. And it was a way for him to have a little bit more of a connection to the place. And the scene with the Fury being in the cabin, that works. That worked fine. Nothing super special there. I think it was just well done. And so I don't have any complaints. And then possibly the best part of the episode was the scene with Zeus. Now, before we get there, I will say that while Olympus looked awesome, I forget what it's called, but the technology that they use to do the big backgrounds, it looked a little funny at some moments when you were panning around Olympus. And now, while I'm happy that they were able to use that technology to make us get this a bigger than imagination idea of Olympus. It does come off a little fake sometimes, but this was nowhere near as bad as the underworld. Now, did it feel a little empty? Like there should be people in these places and there should be noise? Yes. But that was only something that I really thought of because they are there in the book. And if I hadn't just read the book while watching this, maybe I wouldn't have even noticed. I did like how it felt like they were on the top of a mountain when they got to the top of Mount Olympus. Like you could hear the wind in the background and everything. But yes, to the actual scene. It was just fantastic. It's the most Percy has been in the show, with him talking back to Zeus over and over again, because he cares more about being paid attention to and being listened to when he has something to say than behaving. And Zeus getting so angry and being ready to smite him was so good. I know it doesn't happen in the books, but it might be the best change. It hit a lot harder than two gods just sitting in their thrones and talking about Percy as if he's not there. Well, that does have its own gravitas, I guess, in the books. This hit hard, and I liked it. And it was cool to actually hear Zeus say that he's not really going to pay attention to the Kronos thing, and that he's happy that Percy told him, but don't think about it too much. And to really get where the Olympians are with this struggle right now. Where are they at? That was good. And then I did actually really like also that Poseidon stands down from the war first instead of them both putting down arms and deciding they're not going to start a war. Poseidon has to choose his son over his pride. He has to choose his son over his pride. And that was really sweet. And it shows that he does care for Percy, even if when Percy asks him, about his feelings for him and his mom, Poseidon kind of doesn't, he throws the pearl down before he can really say anything so that he doesn't have to talk to Percy about this. But even still, the fact that he chose his son over his pride shows that he does have feelings for Percy and Sally, and that he does want them protected. And then what happens next? Well, he ends up in Camp Half-Blood, and he realizes that Luke is the bad guy. I am also completely fine with them moving this up timeline-wise. It being on the last day of camp worked well for dramatic purposes in the book, but TV shows are already pretty bad at making time clear, so just having it happen immediately works better. So we just keep the story going, one thing after another. Because when they do seemingly move forward months at a time after this, it feels confusing. I'm not sure if Percy stayed there for multiple months and then went home, or if he just went home. But anyway, to the Luke scene. The Luke scene was really good. I'm not going to say it's perfect. I would say that the speech that he makes in the book is way more powerful. And it's one of my favorite moments in all of the books just because of how good of a job Luke articulates his point. And I think that it's important that he articulates his point well now, because it's going to be the basis for everything he does in the next 4 seasons. But at the same time, I understand that this show already has a lot of monologuing, so if this went on too long, it might have felt aggressive. So I do think that they did well with what they got. I will also say the one thing that weirded me out in the scene was Backbiter, like, being able to teleport him. And that was just weird. I don't know where the idea for that came from. I guess they just wanted to get him out of the scene as quickly as possible, but they could have given him some other random artifact. They didn't have to use Backbiter. And then he doesn't even explain to Percy that Backbiter is made out of two metals and can kill anyone, which is the cool part about Backbiter. So I'm just sitting there and I'm like, you brought one of the coolest things from the first series in, but you didn't explain why it was cool, and instead you gave it like this different power that doesn't really make sense for plot convenience, and it worked fine. I'm hoping that, like, I actually am questioning if the H was for Hermes or Hephaestus, because I don't think Hephaestus would have built that. Like, Hephaestus builds everything, but I don't think that he would build something that could kill humans. So, that's a little weird. But, like, yeah, what does the H stand for? Does it stand for Hermes? Is that why he made the H? I don't know. But the scene works really well, and I like that Annabeth is the one that came, because it shows that she was smart enough to realize something was off and not just trust Luke immediately. Like, and so not only did Percy figure out that it was Luke, but so did Annabeth. And that scene just works overall. What happens next? Percy, Annabeth, and Grover all decide to part ways. Clearly in this series, Grover is not going to be the first satyr to come back from Pan. Clearly there have been multiple other satyrs that have come back, since apparently all the natural world has been cataloged. Whereas in the books, it's like, yeah, we have no idea where Pan is, and anytime someone goes and looks for him, they die. So, that's a difference, but it's an okay difference. I will say that his flower, that was like his searcher's license, it looked like the bottom of like a head of lettuce. But that's okay. I don't know what type of flower it was, but it really did look like lettuce, and it made me laugh. But yeah, they go in different directions, and they promise that they'll all come back at the beginning of the next summer, which is a very big lie, because there is like very small chance that the show is going to decide that Grover has to come back to camp before he gets kidnapped by a Cyclops. So I'm going to go with someone should have knocked on wood, but it's fine. And then there was the dream. I will say that I think the show has a lot more fun with dreams than the books do. Like, they get a understanding of how to use dreams, and they keep it, like, steady. Whereas the dreams, like, mess with you in at least this episode. Since Percy's like, I found Mom. She's back. And then it's a dream with Kronos, and he's telling him about the prophecy. Very little about the prophecy, but he's telling him about the prophecy. And then he wakes up and he's been home for like a little bit now, since he's about to go to school. Yeah. That was a little weird, but also really cool. It was messing with my mind, and I like that. Few other things. Gabe turning himself into stone was funny, because I think that by that point, I didn't think that Gabe had done anything bad enough for Percy and Sally to decide to turn him into stone, but him to do it because of his own stupidity and deciding that he can look at Percy's mail. That was pretty funny. My mom was laughing. She was like, that was great. She hasn't read the book, so she didn't know how it happens in the book. I think that the book is pretty fantastic in that circumstance as well. But she did really like it, and I really liked it too. Just one more thing, I think, that I have to say about this episode, which is, how is Percy not a known fugitive anymore? Like, he was on the news for, like, causing havoc, and then he just goes to school. In the book, they make it clear how, like, all that works out. Are we just gonna say that the mist made everyone change their minds without any evidence otherwise? Which is fine, but, like, they don't talk about it. So in my mind, Percy's still a known fugitive, and he's going to school under an alias. So it's just, like, it's, like, the one, like, loose thread at the end of this episode is just Percy, known fugitive. But it's fine. I think that, honestly, it'd be funny if that was touched upon at the beginning of the next season. Anyway, this was really fun. I really liked the episode, and I will go into my overall opinions on the series in another video. It was good. I'll tell you that now. I liked it. But I'm gonna go into, like, top changes, like, favorite changes, least favorite changes, overall feelings, vibes in another episode. Because I want to just talk about these episodes now, and we'll get into the bigger picture in another conversation. And I also have a project that will be out soon-ish, but I'm still writing it, so, like, it's not gonna be out, like, next week, you know? But anyway, I had a lot of fun watching this show with you guys, and I will see you later.